it's not who you are that matters, it's what you do. Oh my God, there are these cool people. They're building these new companies. They've got these amazing ideas. They're really clever. They're changing things. They're having a go at doing things that other people just think is nuts. And I was like, that sounds way more fun than being a doctor. And lo and behold, that's where the idea of, right, I will go to pretentious university. I will try and find a job in pretentious consulting. I will go work at a startup, and I will then one day become a venture capitalist.
Today we have on the podcast Saalim Chowdhury, who was a partner at 500 Startups and Techstars. That's after exiting 2 companies, selling one to Cisco, having a combined valuation of over 200 million. But what's interesting is that from his small village in Wales where he grew up, he was able to do all of this, and he went through the corporate background to begin with and went through that journey. And one of the hugely important things in his entire journey is about being part of a squad. So you're going to learn about his philosophy and how he's giving back now to people like yourselves. Let's get started. So great to have you here.
Great to be here.
So you've done so much in your history now, and you've got building on so much more. But if we take you back now, as a kid, what did Saalim want to be? What was the dreams? What was the ambitions?
So I grew up in North Wales, which is obviously a natural place for a Bengali immigrant family to be. It was wonderful. I think there's the difference between Wales and England in a large space is that it's not who you are that matters, it's what you do. And it was one of the reasons my family had such a warm welcome. And still to this day, like my mum and dad are still fixture ferment in the community. And that really shaped my idea of what I wanted to be. It wasn't about, could I be this, blah, blah. It's like, what can I do? But the one thing I always felt was, at the same time, I had big ideas. And when you have big ideas in a small it's not that rural, but still like middle of nowhere Wales. And being clear, love it to pieces, great place to be, go Welsh innovation and entrepreneurship. But I had bigger dreams. Like I wanted to do, like, could I do something big? Like I was just like, my head was in the clouds. And so when I was, I think 14, I used to work in a computer shop on the weekends. Back in the days, they would assemble computers, you'd screw the graphics card in, blah, blah, blah. And bless, my parents were like, no, you need to go and go learn about the world, go do it. You know, it's actually just as important, if not more important than the academics, which is not bad for brown parents, I think. And so anyway, while I was there, I came across a magazine called Red Herring. The older listeners will be familiar with this.
So before my time, I didn't recognise that.
So Red Herring was the original chronicle of the Sandhill Road, the VCs, in the original .com boom. So thinkpets.com, etc. And I just remember reading about this. And then it was this element of, oh my God, there are these cool people. They're building these new companies. They've got these amazing ideas. They're really clever. They're changing things. They're having a go at doing things that other people just think is nuts. Like, who wants pet food delivered to their door? Really? That could be a business? And they talked all about these amazing people from this company called McKinsey who were helping them through. And I was like, that sounds way more fun than being a doctor. And don't get me wrong, I actually love medicine. Health tech is one of my big investment areas. But it was just one of those, I was looking at it, it's like, screw it. That sounds like a plan. And lo and behold, that's where the idea of, right, I will go to pretentious university. I will try and find a job in pretentious consulting. I will go work at a startup, and I will then one day become a venture capitalist. And somehow
you had that vision right from the start.
I read about it and I was like, fuck it. It's like, that sounds really awesome. Maybe I'll get there, maybe I won't, but let's go and try. And, you know, alhamdulillah, it's like, it all was okay. It all kind of, I got some version of it, right?
I think I've interviewed over 200 people now, and you're the first person ever to be, as a kid, that wanted to be a VC. I've never heard that before.
I mean, I didn't think I even knew what it really was, but it just sounded really cool to be going out and helping build things that lots of people could use, that changes the way things happen. And like, it just seemed like just like, you know, I love the idea of medicine from the image of helping individual people, but I knew it was just like this element of, that just sounds like, this sounds so cool. Why the hell not? And obviously, I don't think I understood what it was, right? And I don't think I do understand what it is today either. You know, I'm an accelerator, early stage VC. I'm not a grown up, late stage kind of ex-private equity doing financial math. I'm a fundamental person. And that's the thing that's been so wonderful about this journey. And somehow I managed to like get an inferior quality of version of, but just slightly inferior, you know. Yeah, I didn't make it to Harvard. I didn't go to, I didn't go to McKinsey, but I just one bit. just one below, which is, it's fine. And I know I'm really grateful. And it's just me. I'm just so fortunate is the honest answer. And I know everybody comes on these things, oh, I'm so fortunate, I'm so lucky. But no, genuinely, like I think of where my father comes from and I think where I am today. My father was born in the bottom 10% of the world. I'm a 1%er, like of the world at 1%. It's just like, it's just incredible to think how far and how lucky. And yeah, sorry, I well up a little at this stuff, but just like what my father put in to enable me to have these dreams. He didn't force me down any route. He just said, look, just be professional. Just do something that you will find joy out of. And that's the most important thing, because if you're good at something, it's not about showing off about it. It's just about doing. Do the good thing, and then money, everything else you want, happiness will follow. And, yeah, I'm really lucky. And yeah, I pinch myself pretty much every morning. I am literally one of the luckiest people alive.
I love that. So it's interesting to see that impact that your parents had on you as well. So if you're not aware, so it's, for me, a big part of the reason VHQ exists is because of what happened to my dad last summer. So after he passed, then it was, how do I pay it forward, right? My dad, similar thing to you, he didn't really care what I did. It was more about, are you going to do it in the right way? Are you going to do it with integrity? Or is it going to make you happy? And because he took that attitude, that's enabled me to do so much. And
100%.
For all the parents listening, well, I don't know if we're the best two examples of the outcome of parenting, but that kind of attitude enables people to flourish, right?
Well, ultimately, like when you think about the sort of the traditional Asian family values, it's all about the whole aspiration of success is having a big house, but not keeping it empty, keeping it full, keeping it with laughter, keeping it full of family, everybody fighting, arguing, but togetherness. And I think that's what's really, really like one of this is a value that I've taken on very much in my career, which is like whenever you're building a company or an accelerator, it should feel exactly like that. My dad jokes, so I'm unmarried, I don't have children. I often joke that the big Asian house family that I have is actually my accelerators, because I have this lovely, we eat dinners most evenings together. It's a very communal kind of thing. And so for me, that's a really important part of like what I've taken from my Asian culture and brought forward. It's like, it doesn't matter where you're from, but you need having that strong base of family and support, regardless of what you choose to do, allows you to be the best version of yourself. And yeah, I think that's the other thing I really take from my upbringing, and I try to bring forward, particularly in building sort of the startup world, building the communities. And I hate the term communities because it's much more about squads and families, right? Community sounds so broad, and that's the whole thing. Is it's like this element of people that believe in each other and look after each other. That is what has made entrepreneurship thrive. That is what made Silicon Valley, Silicon Valley. That is what makes all the world-leading accelerators, the world-leading accelerators, because they bring things together.
So you chose to go to BCG and you had it as your path as like going to consulting before doing this.
Yes.
And
I was supposed to go to McKinsey, but alas, I didn't get in.
Yeah. Would you think that was the right choice in hindsight to go into consulting? Because I guess
I'm really a bit weird about this. So I was not. I wouldn't say I was a great consultant, but what I learned was a lot about how business works, how people behave, political hierarchies, political dynamics. It's like when I look back at like what have I learned from the institutions I was at. University was how to argue with white public school boys, and that's the thing. It's not just white,
it's valuable life lessons. To be fair,
well, I mean, let's be honest. Like one of the things, the greatest privilege they have, and it's an amazing privilege, is the ability to focus on argument, rhetoric, how things are conveyed and stuff. It's just that it's not accessible to everybody, and learning that skill, and it's just a wonderful thing. And equally, the consulting world, any sort of professional services world, teaches you the language of business, understanding how things work. Like the flip side of coming from an Asian family is that I always believed that just do the right thing and the good things will happen. And my dad was right. But sometimes you need to also understand the lay of the land, what people are actually saying when they mean stuff, etc.
You can't be naive about the world, right?
But that's the thing, is it's like, unless you are immersed so if you're some people are lucky and they're born into a world where they see all that language, the color, people come over at dinner, etc. But for the rest of us, these are just great institutions that allow you to do that, and allow you to flourish. And to learn these things that you don't have. So yeah, for me, I'm a great believer that I really hate these ideas, and I generally don't back founders straight out of college, simply because you need to learn how the world works. Yes, you're hungry. Yes, and it'll be frustrating as hell, right? That's to be expected, right? Consulting firms, banks are consulting firms and banks. They're all going to look at how entrepreneurial we are. And you're like, really? You resell services at markup and you haven't changed your business model in 20 years and only now you're kind of changing it? 30, 40, 20, maybe 30, 40 years. It's like, it's not entrepreneurial. But what it does do is, just as big elite institutions, like, it's all about it comes down to these families of wonderful people. And that's the thing that's one of the things that I think has been the hallmark of, of my life. Like in Wales, community values are much more important. And so there was this whole element of, there was this family that helped raise me. Colleges, universities, institutions. Like my time at the LSE was amazing because I was all of a sudden around a bunch of people who thought about the world, how big the opportunities were. They were from everywhere. It was great being the diversity person because I was British. Right? Not because of anything else, right? No one could throw you're the diversity person. It's like, oh, no, I'm British, yes. It's great. And it was wonderful because you had this whole thing. And so immersing yourselves early in your career in environments where there are people you can learn from that help fill your blind spots, that's so valuable. And without that, I would be nothing. I think that was that was the real finishing school. That was the real thing I got out of my first years in sort of, like the professional world. And then going on to startup land was just like,
what triggered that transition then?
Honestly, I always knew I was a startup person. I dabbled in startups while I was a kid, like trying to build my own stuff. Oh my God, it was fun. And then, but it was that element of, I knew I was there to go out and do and build. And when the opportunity came, it was just like, that's the right thing to do. I need to go, I love this stuff. I love these people I'm working with. Was I in love with the product? Probably not. But for me, it was just a great opportunity to learn, understand just the way it works. Because I think, something I think is a maxim that some people may have said or used, but I think it's really valuable. You should be using your 20s to learn, your 30s to earn, and your 40s to yearn. As in, to yearn for whatever you wish you didn't do, and then go do it, right? In an ideal world. Now, I guess I'm lucky because I'm doing that. Like I said, I'm the luckiest person alive, literally. And maybe I'm just, it's a revised narrative based on, just reflecting, how wonderful am I?
So, yeah, that first startup, was it Skillbridge as the first major one you went full-time into?
No. So ScanSafe, which was acquired by Cisco, I was the first product person there. We raised money from what was Balderton. Bulletin, is it? It was Benchmark back then. So alas, according to the document, the magazine I was supposed to raise from Sequoia. So like I said, failed miserably. But no, it was a great entity. We built SaaS, enterprise security software, which obviously was great at dinner parties. And, you could easily go, hey, what do you do? I work in enterprise SaaS security, keeping web security and portal stuff. But it was...
Now it's cool. Back then, I guess it was less of a...
Oh my God, everybody thought I was an idiot. Yeah. Why are you leaving? You should do sensible. You're sensible. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, it's not. I think it's just like a personality trait. Like, I am very much interested in things that change. I'm very much like I don't think like a normal person, which has been one of the banes of my life and one of the joys, right? I'm very good at biassociative thinking. That's basically a fancy way of saying, I like puns. So I do actually have a presentation on this, why people who make puns make great entrepreneurs. It's true, right? Nobody believes me when I have that. And I've given it a few times. It's one of my favorite things. But it's this whole element of biassociative thinking. Like, you look at one thing, you see different sides of it. And I think that's one of the hallmarks of, you need someone on your team to do that. But that doesn't work well in traditional industries where following the orthodox pattern, following the traditional pattern, iterating slightly generates a reliable return. In the entrepreneurship world, it's brilliant, right? And that's what I loved. Like, ScanSafe was an amazing group of people, brilliant engineers, brilliant people that we could work with. You could take the ideas back and forth, and you could have robust conversations. And it was just such a wonderful experience. And I think for me, this element of, that's where I really came and learnt a lot about who I was and what I was wanting to be, because I don't think anybody truly knows what they actually are or they're really good at. I still don't know, is the honest answer, right?
But I know better than you used to.
Correct. And that's the thing. And there are some areas, and I'm still discovering new things I'm good at and discovering things that I thought I was good at, I'm really awful at, right? And I think that's just a wonderful piece of the journey. But like making sure in environments where it's safe for you to do that and it's okay. And the people around you are like, yeah, it's cool, it's fine. That's, like I said, I keep going on about families and squads, etc. But it really is. That's like my whole raison d'etre and like my whole thing about, like, because once you have that, you have the shared understanding. You can pay stuff forward, like the stuff that you're doing with do I call it Bay?
The Bay, yeah.
The Bay. So the cool thing about the Bay is that like it's acting as another family and a squad, and this is what we need so much more of. And that's the whole thing. It's like, I think, as an investor, focusing on businesses that build squads has been like, that's where I've like really come through. And even in boring stuff, like it's still, you need to find the squads of people who believe and do stuff. And that's how you get through the adoption curve, right?
And how do you think that squad was built in Scansay, for example? Like what made it such a good squad and such a good family?
Well, I mean, the thing is, it's really interesting. So I should be saying it was just a really dynamic team of really exceptionally bright people. They really understood the market, etc. But I'll be honest, it was just literally people could talk directly. People would talk straight. And, straight shooters. And it was never we would have spirited discussions where necessary, but it was never held against you. Mm. And those are sorts of things that make it like, it's learning those environments where we can be ourselves. We know how to respectfully talk to each other. It's not about, I'll be radical candor, meaning I can just be a menace. And it's the same with even with the other startups I've built, with the large companies I've been through. It's the ones where you can have discussions respectfully, but also honestly and transparently are the ones that really, really, really thrive. And just going straight to it. I mean, that to me is just like, a big thing.
So obviously you scaled those companies significantly, right? And you're part of those massive journeys. But like, what were the biggest struggles you had on that journey? And like, give us like the story of like those struggles and what was the outcome, right?
Oh my God. Okay. So across a couple of startups, so like we were lucky, we ended up, there's about a couple $100 million in exit value, which is, some people say it's not, I'm really proud of it. But anyway, I think one of the first things was things have changed now, but I remember when fundraising, despite having all the badges you want, I am a pretentious, right? Like my resume reads as like one of the most privileged entitled people. And I'm privileged, definitely earned, somewhat, God knows it's a mix, but yeah. And I would go and I thought it must be, how hard can it be? Took the second startup after being, like that company sold to Cisco. I have all the bells and whistles, university, blah, blah, blah. And I thought, surely I just send some cold emails round and people take calls with me in London for my next startup. No. It was really depressing. Actually, I remember one time I had to get one of my old Etonian friends from university to do an intro. And this guy, we got the intro. It's like one of the leading VC funds in London. And the guy just fell asleep in the middle of the meeting, woke up and just didn't say anything, as if we were just like, oh, okay, that's great. And it's like, it was kind of interesting. It's like, I think the attitudes have changed. I mean, this is like, 10 years ago plus. And the things have changed, attitudes, and it's great. But honestly, it was just a kick in the teeth. It's like my family's, it's like, the thing is, for where we are is generational struggle and generational ambition. It's not just us, right? We stand on the shoulders. And having seen everything they've gone through to be treated like that. But do you know what was really, really redeeming? Got on a plane to America. So much easier. And I came back, and like, it's this whole element where one of the greatest joys of being British and Asian is that we're not necessarily properly British, so we don't have to go through the old British hierarchy. And we're not properly Asian. We can't, Rishi Sunak can't go to his father-in-law. And, I do love Rishi Sunak because all the father-in-law jokes that are common in Asian society, it's like, well, ask your father-in-law for it. It's like, well, he can, Anyway, we can't do that. But what's good about it is inherently, because, it inherently means it's easier for us to access new cultures, new markets. Does it mean going to the Middle East, Singapore, or America, or wherever the funding is? And that's the one thing I do find. We have less hesitancy to do that. And we are generally more welcomed because they see us. And then, like what I found really lovely is like, oh, you're British. Oh, but you're not that British. So any negative prejudices they have about the British, they can kind of forgive a little. And this is the one thing I was like, look, in life, you play to your strengths. And I think that was one of the most bizarre things I found about the British Asian experience from fundraising. Also, one thing I found really exciting during the journey was, and I wish we talked more about this, is like the need to be able to look after yourself to make good decisions. So the one thing I really, really learned was if you're not looking after yourself, like physically, mentally, and having your own check-in to make sure it's okay, everything becomes self-consuming.
I was going to ask you about this because you mentioned about how lucky you are, but you also mentioned about how you've got these different problems from working so hard as a founder.
Oh my God.
How does that marry up?
Like currently going through countless medical appointments, etc. I mean, like the one thing I'm very open and candid talking about is like, you need to look after your mental health, your physical health, your well-being, your understanding, sense of perspective. So it's very easy as a founder to think you are your startup. It is everything. And there's nobody warns you about the perils of being a founder, right? So, like the three things that I thought was hilarious. One, dating while being a founder. Really, really impossible. Just like you are not your best self. You are continuously thinking about your product, this, that, and the other. And if they have they've got like a normal job or, so it's like, and you're just like going in the back of the mind, they're like, oh, well, so what do you think about this? And in your back of your mind, you're going, is that release going to come out in time or not? Whatever. And you just, So, it's just attempting to date and failing miserably. And it's these other struggles around, but it comes down to making good decisions. So it really comes down to having your own focus, objectivity, and not being sucked into your own world. It's like literally founders are exceptional at being sucked into good founders anyway, sucked into their customers' need, what they're going, everything around it. And that's really, really valuable. But knowing how to take that step back and having people that help you take that step back is so incredibly important and valuable. And I wish I had more. And it's like now, in my grown up, debatable from a grown up phase. But that's what I'm keep trying to make sure I do. So one, have your squad around you. Like have an army of people, some founders, some non-founders. Don't surround yourself with only founders. Big danger, big danger. Only founders would be a terrible, terrible website, and so you need a full squad of people. Number two is like if you have a budget. So I've always insisted that there's a line for therapy in every budget. Do it, £100 a session, whatever. It's worth every penny because you'll get better ROI on the decisions you make because you have somewhere safe to talk.
I've heard that some VCs are now enforcing that, where you have to get therapy and coaching as a condition of getting funding.
I think that's a very sensible thing to do. I mean, and for years, I've had like a credit card on file with a therapy agency that, I'm like, I need more money, I need more funding. And it's like, no, go see these, come back to me in a couple of weeks. And literally, I get much better ROI by paying for therapy than I do by doing additional top-up bridge rounds. But it's not a value for money thing. It's really like enabling the founders to be the best version of themselves. And that's the hardest thing as a founder because you can't be, because you're doing it strong. You are in a strained, stressed situation. That's what nobody talks about. And so that's where I think we can do really help. And as a community, what's really interesting from the British Asian angle is that we are a bit different. Most therapists don't understand us. Like, I've gone through so many, and it's not that you must see an Asian therapist, not at all. But sometimes you have to get into context and help them understand that their world experience of, you've got fancy education stuff doesn't mean I'm accepted in the same way as them, right? It's just like, and it doesn't mean that I will get the same reception as they will. And so, it's really...
Yeah, what was your third point there?
So the third thing every founder should have, to your point, is having kill criteria. No startup should last forever. And there are lots of terrible VCs, particularly ones with small portfolios, amongst other things, who will be like, no, keep the company going. I can't, blah, blah. And it's like, no. Yes, it will hurt your IR a little, but spend the time on the companies that are going to really knock it out the park. And if a company isn't there and the founder starts, free them. Let them go. And every founder should have kill criteria because you shouldn't be doing a startup forever. Perseverance, grit, determination, doing it for 10 years and not getting anywhere. It's not good for you, your mental health, or the investor. So, or anybody, to be quite frank, and particularly your loved ones and your family. So, yeah.
So as we get into the final phase here now, right? So you've had your 2 exited companies, and then now you've switched modes a bit in terms of with accelerators and investing in other people. What are some of the key lessons you've had there? Like, what are your philosophies?
So after about 8 years so I'm an early stage accelerator person. And so I have a very different narrative to the traditional to many investors, right? So the things I wish is one, squad. I keep going on about it, but like, if you're not building good squads, then you're not doing that, doing well. You need the support army around me. Learn from Taylor Swift, right? She has a girl squad. And people go on about how it's models and how it's all people like that. But who the hell else can relate to the life of Taylor Swift? So you need your squad. But also, she has her friends from home, right? Was it Abigail, if I remember correctly.
Better than I do here.
What can I say? I'm a nightmare dressed as a daydream. But it's like, she still keeps it real. And it's important to have people who take you out of that on a regular basis. She also has a cats to do that. And that's actually a really important thing. As much as you can say I'm making Taylor Swift jokes, it really is important that you have those pieces there. Second part from investing. So I've been very fortunate. I've worked in 18 different countries. And the one thing I've really realized, the opportunity is global, and people with a global mindset and an ability to adapt between multiple cultures, superpower, absolute freaking superpower. They're the people who can actually go ahead and build. And last but not least is when you are building, stop trying to build for your investor, start building for your customer. Because the problem is we too often chase, I must have the capital, but I need the capital. You don't understand. It's the capital. And the problem with that is that you end up not focusing on your actual customer. So this is why we have so many zombie companies. London is great for this. We've got lots of money, but we don't know it. But we've got to go raise money. Oh no, we've run out of money. Let's go raise money. And there are lots of people who can go and raise money, but what's the point of raising money if you're not serving a customer and serving a need and really nailing that and really owning that? And if you're not going to succeed well, pass the baton onto somebody else. You've started a company, not giving yourself a life sentence.
So we talked about before it started as well, how you got the same number of unicorns as the same Kanji. So had the little shout out there, a little.
I'm not sure. I think he may have a few more than me, but we're not that far. But yeah, I've done relatively okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And you mentioned as well, your criteria for investing, right?
Yes.
Could you go a bit more into that? About,
the thing is, most investors are looking at upstream, follow on, who can return, how will it IPO, etc. But to be truthful, that's great, and there's a market that does that. And there's this horrible myth that everybody in VC needs to be exactly the same. And we all need to like each other and do the same thing and have similar views. If that was true, then the whole market would underperform consistently. Oh, wait. Anyway, my point is that I've always looked at the fundamentals. For me, what I call fundamentals. I'm a fundamentalist investor. Just being clear.
Yeah.
And so the whole point around it is, it's really about the talent and their understanding. Do they really have for me, my whole criteria has always been, do they have lived experience of the problem they're solving? There is nothing more annoying to me than shock horror, the ex-Goldman's person who has an MBA from some business school, who's then going yeah, look at me, I'm so great. I'm going to build this thing that's going to save X, and they all look at I don't know, Travis Kalanick as yeah, but he did it. It's he's a freaking outlier, and that deep empathy with your customer, absolutely the case. Lived experience of the problem, big thing. The second thing is, for me as an early stage investor, I'm not just putting cash in, I'm doing accelerator, I'm working with people. And for me, the lopsided profile is great. It's not what everyone's you've got to be super well-rounded. It's no, because if you're super well-rounded, you're going to go work at the corporation that's involved in that. You need to have a lopsided angle or an edge or whatever that allows you to see stuff that other people don't. But you then need a squad around you to help round you out. And that's what I think is just a real skill and superpower to have. But lastly, it's also looking at the fundamental of motivation, why they're doing it, how it solves them, and how they understand and how they relate to the customer. It's that motivational piece. And I think this is one of the reasons why, that's what you often have to look for. And when I look at my portfolio, I did some maths, and it's I'm not sure whether it's I think 85% plus are diverse. the majority are female founded, and like I can go into it, but I think it's like 12. It's like it's 12% Black, 15% LGBTQ, all this kind of stuff. But what really I found, and maybe it's just me, right? It's that because I'm looking at these fundamentals of do they understand and empathize, etc., but also the value of not being part of the mainstream or the default, and how people choose to use that. Do they use it are they martyrs to it? Or are they the kind of person that's like, right, what's taken away in one way gives me back in another. I'm going to make sure I take advantage of it in the other, and I'm going to get an awesome squad around me. And I think that's how I ended up. So I don't know, I'm probably like London's most active investor in those sectors, right? Female founders, minority founders, etc. So like, it's not about those metrics though. It's about the fundamentals. And this is why I don't go on bragging about, look at me with my super diverse thing. It's like, look at me with really great founders, with really great companies, because I'm investing on their fundamental attributes. And because I don't have big amounts of money, I can't write the checks that, I love. Hussein and I are good friends, but I can't write. I've never been able to write his checks. I would love to write checks his size one day. It gives you access to a different type of people. But that's the whole thing. And that's the greatest joy about entrepreneurship. There are places for a wide number of people. It's not one type. It's not one thing. And one of the things I love about the work you're doing here, and one of the reasons I decided to join the podcast, is you're showing the diversity of people, even within a relatively small subset. We're all such different people, and we're all such different backgrounds and different reasons, but we're all having an impact, and we're all building things, and we're all making lots of money, which is great. And that's one of the secrets. There is no one size fits all. There is no universal secret. There is the path that you choose to make, and you have to find your squad to help you get to that end route. And that basically is, after I saw my last company, that's one of the reasons I got into venture capital, so that I could go ahead and enable those people. And yeah, I'm probably the least fun returns minded person, but yeah, it's what my father said: follow what you love, become really good at it, and everything else will follow.
So thank you so much for coming on today. I could let you talk forever, to be honest. It's like, because you were saying about waffling. It's like, you're not waffling. It's all really valuable, and I've really enjoyed it. But I need to put you onto the quick fire questions now, so we don't get kicked out. So first one is, who are 3 appreciations that you'd love to spotlight, that you think people listening right now should be paying attention to? Okay, shock horror, they're going to be my founders that I've backed, biased, obviously. So first out would be Arif Siddiqui. He was on the pod before. What I love about him is he is one of the most kind, humble, sincere. He like lifts people up along with lifting himself up. And it's that spirit of a rising tide lifts all ships. He's just an amazing human being. Next up would be Nabila from Ramel, Nabila Begum. She is founding an amazing AML startup, making it easier and simpler. And she's like one of the leading legal experts in the field, but she's just brilliantly unassuming. She's like there. She just cares deeply and passionately about what she's doing. Like, I've never seen anybody get as excited about AML. It's just like, how do you get excited, right? And I think about her enthusiasm, and I think of Charlie from Comply Advantage's enthusiasm. She knocks him. She's like 20 times more enthusiastic. And last but not least, British Asians that we should be looking at. Actually, so Maruf from Quit Genius, or Pelago as they are now. Again, just one of these amazing human beings. Like, I remember meeting him and he was like, yeah, I've got this good thing. And like, I was like, take my money. Take my money. And it's been a good return. And so, he's like, it's that his ability and tenacity to make friends with anybody, his humility, and the mission-driven nature. It's like, these are people that you just have to sit back and, all 3 of them are like, I just wish I could be more like them. And in many ways, depressingly, makes for a great investment thesis. Yeah. So people want to find out more about you and what you're up to now. Where should they go to?
I keep a load of my lectures and stuff on salim.org, and I need to go update.
Pun one's on there, isn't it?
Oh yes, the fundamentals of entrepreneurship is definitely there. I feel like I should actually do a recorded version when I actually present it at some point. And that's basically where you can find stuff. I'm on various social media, but I tend not to use it very much, largely because I don't want to be that investor that's like, hey, I'm let the founders do the talking. But that said, I'll probably change at some point. I'll probably have to give in. But you find me on LinkedIn, whatever. But yeah.
Is there anything that the listeners could help you with, or you're looking for right now that maybe they could help you with?
Honestly, the number one thing I'm most excited about is I feel like I'm turning into old man territory. I'm having my midlife crisis. I bought a stupid car that I shouldn't have bothered with, but it has doors like this, not doors like this. I fell into that trap. But
that's going to be the rule, by the way. Just you doing that.
Yes, reminds me of the IKEA. Did you hear the IKEA in Tottenham is becoming a nightclub?
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, actually, I did hear this. Yeah.
And I'm just think about all the IKEA dances, you could do that, so not just like that. Anyway, I can digress a lot. So my whole thing is that what I want to do is if you're a founder and you're early stage, help me understand where you feel the bottlenecks are. Help me understand what is stopping you from doing stuff, but only if you're a founder that has lived experience of the problem. Please reach out to me, salim@salim.org. Shockingly easy available. So it's 2 A's. Please feel free to reach out to me by email. Love to chat. And I host regular open access office hours over at WeWork and Opus on York Road. So very happy to come and chat to people.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much for listening. It means a huge amount to us. And we don't think you realise how important you are. Because if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, if you leave us a 5-star review, it makes a world of difference. And if you believe in what we're trying to do here, to inspire, connect and guide the next generation of British Asians, if you do those things, you can help us achieve that mission. And you can help us make a bigger impact. And by doing that, it means we can get bigger guests, we can host more events, we can do more for the community. So you can play a huge part. So thank you so much for supporting us.